vacations were the norm, and where the stock market was your playground. Sounds like it is straight out of a movie, right? Well, that's because it is. Or is it? For some time, this was the world of Jordan Belfort, the notorious Wolf of Wall Street. But with great power comes great consequences, and in a story of epic proportions, Belfort's empire crumbled around him, leaving him with nothing but a shattered reputation and a tarnished legacy. In this episode, we'll dive into the unbelievable true story of Belfort's rise to power, his wild antics, and his epic downfall. Get ready for a dramatic journey through the world of high finance, excess, and corruption that will have you on the edge of your seat. However, before we begin, we want to make it clear that this episode is based on the true story of Jordan Belfort. However, for storytelling purposes, we may include some unverified or dramatized details. For example, minor details such as the weather on a particular day. This should not make the episode any less authentic, but will greatly enhance its quality. With that said, we hope you enjoy the episode. So join us on this episode of the Ponder With Us podcast, the true story of the Wolf of Wall Street. The year is 1962. Somewhere in a hospital in New York, a child has just been born. But this baby is not any regular baby. This is our protagonist, Jordan Ross Belfort, or as some of you know him as the Wolf of Wall Street. Jordan was not the first addition to the Belfort family. Rather, he was the second child of Lee and Max Belfort. Jordan Belfort's parents were both accountants, and it is possible that their influence and exposure to the world of finance played a role in his later career in the financial sector. Many sources even suggest that Max held a certified public accountant designation. According to Jordan, his father worked tirelessly to provide for the family, yet he was never able to accumulate enough wealth to comfortably support Jordan and his older brother Robert. Despite these challenges, Max and Leah raised their kids in a decent and humble family. In his memoir, Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan paints a vivid portrait of his father, Max, as an irascible and hot-headed individual. Jordan attributes his father's inability to amass significant wealth to his temperamental nature, which resulted in missed opportunities and closed doors. Indeed, Max's fiery personality caused him to turn down lucrative job offers and burn bridges with potential business partners. Jordan Belfort's memoir depicts his parents as controlling and domineering, with his father earning the moniker Mad Max due to his volatile behavior fueled by vodka and cigarettes. Jordan's fear of his father's wrath was a recurring theme throughout his childhood and adolescence, and he often felt suffocated by his parents' expectations. On the other hand, he described his mom as a Jewish mom who was on steroids and demanded he start studying for medical school from a very young age. However, despite what may seem as a shaky relationship between Jordan and his father, Jordan has always credited his success to his father. Now that we have an idea of the environment Jordan grew up, we can better understand Jordan's insatiable desire to gain wealth and power. In fact, Jordan showcased his ambition to become a wealthy individual at a young age. Around the age of 16, Jordan and a friend of his started a business of their own. They sold Italian ice cream from styrofoam coolers at a local beach. You might be wondering, well, how much did they earn? Take a guess. If you'd guessed $20,000, you would be correct. I don't know about you, but I am very much impressed. If someone had told me two 16-year-olds are selling ice cream, I would have assumed they just want a little bit of extra pocket cash. Nonetheless, this story perfect testament to Jordan's knowledge, even at a young age, of supply and demand. After all, selling ice cream on the street might seem lucrative, but the real demand is on the beaches. It seems that even at a young age, Jordan was a master salesman, which would greatly benefit his future career. Only this time, he will be selling stocks and not ice cream. After graduating from American University with a degree in biology, Belfort planned on using the money earned selling ice cream to pay for dental school, subsequently enrolling himself at the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. However, it didn't take long for him to realize that his true passion lay elsewhere. He dropped out on the first day after the school dean warned the students, saying, "The golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're in the wrong place." This early experience highlights Jordan's relentless pursuit of wealth and the lengths to which he was willing to go to achieve it. Although Jordan realized that money was his passion early on, It was still unclear how he was going to amass generational wealth. But one thing was clear: he would have to return to what he knew best: sales. And so before embarking on his career in the financial world, Jordan had several odd jobs to make ends meet. One of these jobs was as a fish and meat salesman. Despite his lack of experience in the field, he quickly became a top salesman. Thanks to his natural charisma and salesmanship, Jordan began to expand and hired the workers to grow his fish and meat selling business. It is said that the business would sell 5,000 pounds of beef and fish in a week. It seems that Jordan was able to sell the products to customers in a way that made them seem irresistible, and he even convinced some to purchase more than they had originally intended. This job may have seemed like a temporary solution to his financial problems at the time, but it ultimately provided Jordan with valuable experience in sales that he would later use to great effect in the financial sector. And in fact, Jordan recalls that the business was initially a success. However, perhaps due to Jordan's overambition, the business expanded quicker than it could, and the lack of capital caused Jordan to file for bankruptcy at the age of 25. And perhaps this is a perfect example of the life of a young entrepreneur. One day, you're on top of the world, the richest you have ever been with a successful company and a bright future. The next day, everything comes crashing and you find yourself losing everything. And this was the situation Jordan found himself in, bankrupt at the age of 25, surrounded by doubt and uncertainty. What if he was way over his head? What if this was all a dream, a fairy tale told to children? Nonetheless, Jordan knew that he had to keep going. He couldn't give up. Fortunately for Jordan, when one door closes, another opens, and Jordan was introduced to the world of finance by a childhood friend who had landed a job as a stockbroker. This friend was able to get Jordan an interview for a trainee position at LLF Rothschild, a prestigious Wall Street firm. Despite having no formal education or experience in finance, Jordan's natural sales ability and fearless attitude caught the eye of the hiring managers. He was soon offered a job as a stockbroker trainee, starting at the bottom rung of the ladder. Jordan worked tirelessly to learn the ins and outs of the financial industry, quickly mastering the art of cold calling and making sales. His talent for sales and his drive to succeed propelled him to greater heights. However, Jordan's meteoric rise on Wall Street came to a crashing halt with the Black Monday stock market crash of 1987. The crash caused widespread panic and wiped out billions of dollars in value. Jordan's firm was not immune to the effects of the crash and ultimately had to close its doors. Jordan was left without a job and facing the prospect of starting over from scratch. For those of you who are unsure of what the Black Monday stock market crash was, the Black Monday stock market crash of 1987 was a wild and tumultuous day on Wall Street. It was a time when investors watched in horror as the stock market plummeted by an unprecedented 22.6% in a single day. It was a day that changed the financial world forever. The crash was caused by a combination of factors, including rising interest rates, high levels of debt, and overvalued stocks. As the panic spread, investors scrambled to sell their shares, creating a vicious cycle that led to even more selling. The effects of the crash were felt worldwide, with many investors and financial institutions suffering significant losses. It was a wake-up call for the financial industry, which was forced to re-evaluate its practices and create new regulations to prevent a similar event from happening in the future. The Black Monday crash may have been a dark day in financial history, but it also led to important changes that have made the market safer and more stable today. And yet again, Jordan found himself in a predicament. But this time, he had something valuable, something money could not buy. He had experience. And so, Jordan knew that his story was not over yet. Jordan Belfort eventually ended up at Investor Center, a small brokerage firm on Long Island, in 1988. There, he was introduced to penny stocks. If you are unfamiliar with penny stocks are typically low-priced, highly speculative stocks that trade outside of the major exchanges, like the New York Stock Exchange or Nasdaq. They are often issued by small or startup companies which have limited operating history and are therefore considered riskier investments. Because penny stocks are not subject to the same regulatory requirements as stocks listed on major exchanges, they are more vulnerable to fraud and manipulation. However, penny stocks can offer investors the potential for huge gains if they are successful. Due to their high volatility and potential for quick returns, penny stocks have become a popular choice for day traders and other investors seeking to make a quick profit. Essentially, penny stocks are like the Wild West of the stock market. They're often dirt cheap and traded on small exchanges, making them a risky but potentially high reward investment. And if there was anything that could entice Jordan, it was high reward investments. Armed with the knowledge of penny stocks, Jordan founded an over-the-counter brokerage house in the franchise Stratton Securities with partner Danny Porush a year later. After starting Stratton Oakmont, Jordan Belfort quickly found success by targeting penny stocks. His aggressive sales tactics, combined with the high-pressure environment he created, attracted investors looking for big returns. Belfort's company grew rapidly, and just 5 months after starting Stratton Oakmont, he was able to buy the entire Stratton Securities franchise and rename the company to Stratton Oakmont. The company essentially functioned as a boiler room that marketed penny stocks and defrauded investors with pump and dump schemes. A boiler room is a high-pressure sales operation that typically involves aggressive and deceptive tactics to sell low-priced or even worthless securities to unsuspecting investors. The term boiler room originates from the cramped, often windowless rooms in which these operations are conducted, with telemarketers working long hours and making hundreds of calls per day. Essentially, imagine a bustling office where the phones are ringing off the hook, the salespeople are shouting and cheering, and the sound of money changing hands is all around you. That's a boiler room. It's a high-pressure sales environment where brokers use high-pressure tactics to sell stocks to unsuspecting investors. The brokers often use misleading information, hype up the stocks beyond their actual value, and pressure investors to buy quickly before the opportunity passes them by. It's a cutthroat world where the goal is to make as much money as possible, no matter the cost. And Jordan Belfort was about to take this world by storm. Over the next several years, Stratton Oakmont exploded with success, like a rocket blasting off into the financial stratosphere, employing over 1,000 high-octane stockbrokers and being linked to the initial public offerings, OPOs, of nearly 36 companies. But how exactly did this happen? What was the secret formula? Well, the secret formula was what Jordan called the pitch. The Kodak pitch was taught to the brokers, wherein they were directed to call clients and entice them with a trusted blue-chip stock, only to then recommend stocks with higher margins for the seller, such as penny stocks. The goal of the pitch was solely to gain the client's confidence in the trustworthiness of their firm by recommending a familiar household name that larger brokerage houses such as Merrill Lynch might recommend. After the initial Kodak pitch, clients would receive regular updates on the company, as well as new penny stock pitches that Jordan Belfort was illegally manipulating and using to siphon money. By the mid-1990s, Stratton Oakmont had become a major player in the financial industry, with over 1,000 employees and a reputation for making its brokers incredibly rich. You can probably imagine how such a reputation would help Stratton Oakmont attract the best talents across America. However, their meteoric success was not left unnoticed, and Stratton Oakmont soon found itself under the watchful eye of law enforcement agencies. The FBI, SEC, and other government bodies began investigating the company for a variety of illegal activities, including securities fraud, money laundering, and market manipulation. Despite these growing concerns, Jordan Belfort and his cronies continued to operate Stratton Oakmont with little regard for the law or their clients' well-being. However, in Jordan's mind, all was going well. He had finally made it, and he wasn't going to stop. Jordan was finally living the high life. One can imagine his daily routine consisted of waking up in his luxurious mansion, surrounded by beautiful women, exotic cars, and expensive art. He would often start the day with a few lines of cocaine and a shot of top-shelf alcohol. After a quick breakfast, he would head to the office, where he would hold court with his army of brokers, inspiring them to make sales and bring in more clients. In between business calls, Belfort would take breaks to indulge in some of his favorite pastimes, such as snorting cocaine off of the breasts of strippers or playing a round of tennis on his private court. He would often hold extravagant parties at his mansion, where the guests were treated to endless supplies of drugs, alcohol, and entertainment. If you are wondering what these parties looked like, here you go. At a typical Jordan Belfort party, the air was filled with the scent of cigars and the sound of clinking glasses. The attendees, who were mostly young and attractive women, donned lavish dresses and expensive jewelry, while the men wore designer suits. The partygoers were treated to an endless supply of top-shelf liquor and hors d'oeuvres, while waitresses in scanty outfits circulated the room, serving caviar and other delicacies on silver platters. In the center of the room, a band played upbeat music, and everyone danced and mingled with reckless abandon. The extravagance of the party seemed to know no bounds, with no expense spared in the pursuit of pleasure. And drugs, of course, plenty of drugs, in fact. After all, it wouldn't be a Jordan Belfort party without quaaludes. Despite the high life, Belfort was always hungry for more money and more power, and he would do whatever it took to get it. He lived his life on the edge, taking risks and breaking the law without a second thought. It was this relentless pursuit of wealth and excess that would eventually lead to his downfall. And you might be wondering, how did it all come crashing down? Well, as the saying goes, mo money, mo problems. Jordan now had more money than he knew what to do with. Jordan would attempt to move money out of the United States through Swiss banks by setting up secret accounts and using shell companies. He utilized the services of an associate, Jean-Jacques Handili, to help facilitate the transfer of millions of dollars overseas. The scheme involved wire transfers and cash transactions in order to avoid detection by the authorities. But little did Jordan know that the FBI was hot on his trail. With their top investigators, Greg Coleman and Joel Cohen, leading the charge, they were able to persuade witnesses to give them intel on Belfort's secret move. Not even notoriously secretive Swiss banks could resist the FBI's pressure, and eventually, Belfort's attempts to launder his money were exposed. It's a classic tale of the big bad wolf thinking he could outsmart the three little pigs, only to be brought down by his own greed. After years of illegal activity and lavish spending, Stratton Oakmont was finally shut down by the FBI and SEC in 1996. Jordan Belfort was arrested in 1998 and charged with securities fraud and money laundering. He eventually pleaded guilty and cooperated with authorities, leading to the arrest of several of his colleagues. Belfort served only 22 months due to his cooperation and good behavior. During his time in prison, he shared a cell with comedian Tommy Chong, who encouraged him to tell the story of his experiences as a stockbroker. And so, during this time, that Belfort decided to write his memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, which would later be adapted into a blockbuster movie. In addition to his prison sentence, Belfort was ordered to pay $110 million in restitution to his victims. Jordan commented on his wrongdoings in his memoir, stating, quote, "I got greedy. Greed is not good. Ambition is good. Passion is good. Passion prospers. My goal is to give more than I get. That's a sustainable form of success. 90% of the business was legitimate. It was all brokerage firm issues. It was all legitimate. Nothing to do with liquidating stocks." End quote. Before we end today's episode, I wanted to add an additional segment to the podcast, where we will be taking a closer look at one of the most iconic movies about Wall Street, The Wolf of Wall Street. As with many movies based on true stories, there are questions about what parts of the story are factual and which are fiction. In this segment, we will explore some of the most memorable moments of the movie and separate fact from fiction. Before we leave, I just wanted to thank you all for joining us on this adventure. Thank you for your time and attention. If you enjoyed the episode, please like it and share it with your friends and family. Best of luck, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Did Jordan Belfort really meet his future business partner in a restaurant? Danny Perouche, who is portrayed as Donnie Azoff in the film, actually met Jordan Belfort through his wife. While commuting to the city on a bus, she met Belfort, who always gave up his seat for her. Impressed by his kindness, she introduced him to her husband, who was struggling with his private ambulette business. After one conversation with Belfort, Perouche decided to take the Series 7 exam to become a licensed stockbroker. Did Jordan Belfort really host an in-office dwarf? Tossing competition. According to Danny Perouche, the real-life inspiration for Donnie Azoff, the rumors about abusing and throwing midgets in the office are false. He insists that they treated the little people with respect and kindness. However, he does admit that the company did hire little people to attend at least one of their wild parties. Was Jordan Belfort really known as the Wolf of Wall Street? Former co-founder and president of Stratton Oakmont, Danny Porush, denies that anyone at the brokerage firm referred to Jordan Belfort as the Wolf. In fact, Porush claims that it is just one of several embellishments and fabrications found in Belfort's book and the subsequent film adaptation. Did Belfort really stand in front of his employees and give riling speeches with a microphone? Yes. Belfort was known to stir his troops into action by belting out words of motivation through a microphone. Did a female employee really let them shave her head for $10,000 to pay for breast implants? The real Jordan Belfort claims this is true in his memoir. The female employee let them shave off her blonde hair for $10,000, which she used to pay for D-cup breast implants. Was there ever a chimpanzee in the office? The scene in which Leonardo DiCaprio's character is depicted hanging out with a chimp in the office is entirely fictional, as confirmed by Danny Porush. According to Porush, there were no animals in the office, let alone a chimpanzee. Furthermore, Porush stated that he would never mistreat an animal in any way, although he did confess to consuming the goldfish. Did he really almost crash his helicopter in his yard? Yes. In his memoir, Jordan Belfort writes that he was flying his private helicopter while high and nearly crashed it in his yard. Did Danny Porush really marry his own first cousin? Yes. According to Jordan Belfort's memoir, the real Donny Adzoff, whose actual name is Danny Porush, did marry his first cousin Nancy. Was Belfort really arrested for crashing his Lamborghini while high on expired Quaaludes? Yes, but according to Belfort, the car wasn't a Lamborghini like in the movie, it was a Mercedes. He was so high in a drug daze that he couldn't remember causing several different accidents as he tried to make his way home. In real life, one of the accidents was a head-on collision that actually sent a woman to the hospital. Well, that's all for this segment in today's episode. The problem was, many of these penny stocks had little to no actual value and would inevitably crash, leaving clients with nothing while Belfort and his company made millions. Despite this, Belfort would claim that he was only trying to help his clients invest in the future of America, while in reality, he was scamming them out of their hard-earned money. Fundamentally, the whole strategy was to gain the trust of investors, use their money to manipulate the markets and get filthy rich in the process. Nothing too complicated, probably something they would teach in a Fraud 101 class.